And welcome back to CPAC Day 3. I have Mike Crispi with RSBN. Joining me now for an interview is Anthony Bouchard, who is running against Liz Cheney. You might have heard of her, an absolute swamp monster. Mr. Bouchard, how you doing? You have a big race ahead of you against a very, very unpopular congresswoman. What's your thoughts on the race so far?
Well, look, every time she just keeps opening her mouth, obviously you know that every time she does, it seems like she throws more fuel on the fire that she's burning herself with. That's the good news. Other good news is we've raised over $500,000. Our most recent poll shows me in the lead in a multi-candidate race.
In the lead in a multi-candidate race. So Liz Cheney, talk about that, because she was quick to vote to impeach the president, Donald J. Trump. How was that received back in the home state, and what was the backlash from doing that?
You know, people in Wyoming, as you know, Wyoming is the state that voted for Trump, the most percentage, you know, for the population that's there in any state in Wyoming twice, or in the country twice, right?
Right.
So more voters supported Trump twice, 2 elections. The people were livid.
So why do you think she did that? Why do you think she went off the rails so badly?
You know, I think it's just a vitriol hatred for Trump, and it's just coming out of every orifice she has.
Yeah, I mean, Liz Cheney, for those of you at home, know that she is totally into the military-industrial complex, a warmonger. Obviously, President Trump, the first president in over 60 years not to start any new foreign conflicts. So talk a little about your race. What do you stand for when you're going up against Congresswoman Cheney?
Well, look, it's easy to say it was the impeachment, because that's what's in the front. If you look back in time here, her first actions on the floor were let's shut down repealing Obamacare. Let's vote against budget cuts. Everything that she's done doesn't make any sense now. Now that she's running a race saying we need to get control of these agencies, well, you would have got control with the purse strings. That's what the job of Congress is. It's the purse strings. She's been on the wrong side of those votes, been building more government, building more agencies. She can't come in now and say, "Oh, I'm here to cut it back." She missed that chance.
So she stands for big government, expanding, not doing budget cuts. So talk a little about your rise. So Second Amendment, obviously something that is very important to you, gun owner rights groups. Talk a little about your advocacy for the Second Amendment in Wyoming.
Well, you know, when Obama got elected, I saw the writing on the wall. The Democrats are going to push and, you know, take our guns away. I formed Wyoming Gun Owners and spent a couple of years building lists and building membership. And by 2011, we were the driving force on the outside, and we pushed constitutional carry. It passed in 2011, became law. So we were the fourth state in the country to have permit less carry.
Yeah, constitutional carry.
Okay.
So why do you think just nationally, obviously, especially in states like liberal states like New York and New Jersey, the Second Amendment is under assault? What do you think that people can do to ensure that our Second Amendment rights are protected around the country?
Well, it's happening. I mean, we're up to 21 states now, so we've come a long way. I mean, look at Texas here.
Right.
They finally did the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it took them a long time, but they finally got there. So, I mean, it's happening. I think that people are fed up. They know that the gun laws just don't work. I mean, criminals don't ask permission. They just go and shoot up the place, and they rob the place, and they do whatever they're going to do. It was always about law-abiding citizens should be on equal footing. And I don't want to miss the point, man. The Second Amendment isn't for all that, even though we do cherish that part of the Second Amendment.
Yes.
It's about having the government not having the monopoly on power. It's about keeping tyranny under control.
Absolutely. Keeping tyranny under control, and obviously Liz Cheney, somebody who is advocating for more government. Talk a little about the sentiment in Wyoming with President Trump, what you see with the grassroots, the feeling with him. Obviously, he's going to be speaking at CPAC today.
Yep.
We're on day 3. Talk about the advocacy that you've worked on for President Trump in the state of Wyoming.
Well, look, a lot of the things that I've worked on, like prescription drug prices, I mean, that was a Trump issue. Today, you see a few issues that get pushed up in the front, but if you look down the list, man, it was a big list that Trump advanced for conservatives. I mean, he was right on the agenda. I'm just going to say that a lot of, I mean, state issues are a little bit different, right?
Right.
Because, you know, we're trying to help maneuver through the mess that's been created by things like Obamacare.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a guy that's pushed back at Obamacare expansion in Wyoming. So I mean, and that's going back to 2010, even when I was a citizen advocate. But the real issue we have here is that Wyoming voters obviously supported Trump.
Yes.
And if you look at the things that I've done, I get a CPAC award every year. I mean,
Right.
and it's not hard. Just vote like a Republican.
Right. Stand for limited government.
There's only 3 of us in the Senate that get that. I mean,
Right.
consistently.
So in the upcoming election, in the midterms, obviously we have 2022. How do you think Republicans are going to fare? Obviously, we see the Biden administration right now running amok. You talked about some of your pushback with some of the Obama policies. What do you think is going to happen in this country with 2022, your election, and then the country as a whole?
Well, I think what's going forward, and you talked about some of the issues, or we were moving that direction. Look at this whole thing with critical race theory.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing, starting with Obama, was make it about race. Now they're on steroids, and they keep pushing. I mean, we've got some. I think that the differences with me is most of these congressional candidates go to Congress, they end up raising money for the bad guys. They go back, and leadership tells them, well, you got to work the phone banks for
Talking
them.
about the rhinos, right?
Yeah.
The rhinos.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that. That's one thing that has to be different. We have to go send people back to Congress that can solve problems.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about that America First value. So you're obviously running, you bill yourself as the Trump-like candidate standing for limited government, and he obviously set an agenda that has been pushing America First. We had Matt Gaetz on yesterday. So talk a little about that. Why do you think that rhinos are able to persist in Congress? And if you did get elected, what kind of things would you work on to oust those members so we can have a cleaner, more efficient, smaller government?
Well, and that's where I was going with the fundraising. Yeah. I mean, look, everybody knows I know how to raise money. I'm going to raise money for our guys. I got to tell you, we had a member of Congress that endorsed one of the guys that we want needed out in our Senate. And the good news is the people got rid of him, even though our U.S. senator came in and endorsed the bad guy.
Wow.
I'm just going to say I'm going to be the guy that comes back to our state, and I'm going to endorse anybody but.
Right. So why do you think they're doing that? Is it for money,
The
influence,
swamp
power?
sticks together.
The swamp sticks together.
That's
and
what they do.
I think people at home really don't know the extent in which the swamp runs.
Yes.
Right? Very deep, a lot of influence, trading and peddling, and they're paying each other off. So how are you going to root that out of politics if you get in? Obviously, you're going to raise money for the good guys, but how do you thwart off the swamp monsters collectively and because they have a lot of money?
Look, they do, but I think that's what Trump has done. He's pulled the veil back. I mean, you've got Liz Cheney right now has a PAC called the Cowboy PAC.
Right.
And if you look at the money she's giving to bad candidates right now, raising money in the D.C. swamp, giving it out nationally, those are the things we need to really work against. I mean, everybody says, they don't understand how this structure works with money. I need to be the guy that says, hey, here's what they're doing. Contact your congressman and tell them to stop doing this to their people.
Right, and she obviously got removed from her leadership position in Congress, which obviously was a good decision, right? What were your thoughts on that? And how do you think that she reacted, and how do you think she's going to take this re-election battle with having such unfavorable numbers nationally? She is a very unfavorable member of Congress nationally. She's a Wyoming congresswoman, but she's known nationally. How do you think she would even have a chance to stand for re-election in the state?
The only chance she has is the Democrats. They're the ones that are coming in and
The
helping.
Democrats, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it
It's a
really
big
is.
statement, yeah.
Yeah, the Democrats are lining up and kissing her boots right now, and she apparently loves it. I mean, that's what she's looking for. She wasn't the person that represented Wyoming. The votes show it. She's got a D Liberty vote, a D.
Wow.
If you go look at National Review and start looking at some of those votes, all her votes to reduce government, there weren't any. There weren't votes to reduce government. There weren't. Spending just kept going. Military-industrial complex is probably at the root of that. I mean, her goal is to make sure we just keep spending on foreign wars.
And that is a scary thing for those out there. Why are we involved in endless conflicts in the Middle East? President Trump pulled the veil back on that. And believe it or not, people in the swamp, people in the Washington bureaucracy stood against President Trump trying to take troops out. He talked about it. They want to keep troops in, right? So I want to shift gears, just ask you one last question. President Trump is obviously speaking later today. What do you think his message is going to be, and what do you want to hear him say?
Well, I think his message is going to be obviously every issue that you can imagine under America First policies. And this isn't hard. I mean, we see the voters all the time. He's clicked with what the voters want. Conservative candidates and conservatives that have been in the legislature. I mean, I think it's really important here that what we see is I've got a track record.
Right.
Not to mention, I've stood up to leadership in my own chamber. If you don't go to the junior leagues first and learn how to take some hits, learn how to get some battle scars, and plus be the guy that's going to stand up, I think that's his message, man. That's what he did.
That's what he
went
did.
in there.
He went against his own party, and you, in the state of Wyoming, in the state legislature, went against your own party, which obviously requires courage and bravery. So,
you do understand that in Wyoming, there's only 2 Democrats in my chamber of 30.
Right.
My fight isn't with them.
It's with fellow Republicans.
It's with rhinos that don't really care about the people.
I hear that 100%. I think our viewers at home know that. We need to get rid of the rhinos in Congress, in the state houses. That's why it's so important to be active in your local governments and your congressional races. So, Mr. Anthony Bouchard, we wish you the best of luck in your fight to unseat Liz Cheney.
Well,
Thank you for joining us.
I'd like to give my campaign
please.
a little plug here. If people want to support my campaign, go to anthony4wyoming.com. Join our team. We need to send people that are pit bulls back to D.C. What leadership wants people to do is follow their lead.
Yeah.
It's an oxymoron, man. When you have leadership in legislative bodies, it is and call themselves leadership. It's an oxymoron. You need people that will lead from within the pack and bring more conservatives in, more fighters, more people that will join around the cause instead of people that will follow the wrong people.
Absolutely. I love that. Anthony Bouchard, thank you for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting. And you heard how to reach him. Get involved in the campaign, get involved in America First candidates, and we'll see you soon.